Financial success does not happen by chance, but as a result of understanding and mastering your own finances and investing your money wisely. Unfortunately, little of this is taught in school, and many have to learn by risking and losing the little money they worked so hard to get. This happens because they were never educated to increase knowledge about their personal finances and money, to improve their financial intelligence, and thus escape the trap of being eternally enslaved to their financial needs with no hope of improving their situation. If you want to know how to improve your personal finances, this video is for you, because today we will look at the 6 essential steps to organize your personal finances. Are you ready? Let's get started. Financial education and your personal finances. Financial education is a skill that each of us must develop. It determines to a large extent your financial success. Knowing how to save, invest, spend, and plan your personal finances is a skill and ability with a great impact on your economic well-being. Learning to manage and administer our money well, such as acquiring a mindset conducive to money, is the path to achieving financial success. Unfortunately, many people, despite earning a lot of money, have never bothered to improve their ability to manage their money and finances, which has resulted in the sad loss of all their assets. However, many people have managed to change the course of their financial lives by applying simple concepts such as spending, controlling their spending, preparing their budget, and investing, which has allowed them to achieve high financial intelligence and, consequently, a large accumulation of assets. Having a solid financial education, in addition to developing your financial intelligence, will allow you to have tools to understand financial concepts and thus make better and more accurate decisions with your money. Remember that more important than earning your money is your ability to save it to invest in assets that produce even more money. Therefore, your wealth is not measured by what you earn, much less by what you spend, but by what you can accumulate over the years. Next, let's look at these 6 definitive steps to organize your personal finances and allow you to invest in assets that increase in value over time and at the same time generate income. Essential steps to master your personal finances. The concepts for managing our personal finances are not complicated. However, few are willing to have enough discipline, attitude, and proactivity to educate themselves and apply them in their lives. The pillars we must learn to manage money in our personal finances, especially if we are beginners, are setting financial goals, identifying your income, spending control, managing your budget, and finally, investing your money. Now we will develop each of them in detail in the next 6 steps. Have you ever imagined unraveling the secrets of the greatest minds in the world effortlessly? It may seem incredible, but now it's a reality with our 100-book summary kit, which includes audiobooks and PDFs of the most valuable parts. Learning has become more accessible than ever. Don't miss this opportunity. Get your kit by clicking on the first link in the description. Step 1. Set your financial goals. In any decision or activity you make, first make sure you know the reasons why you will do it, because if you don't set your course and goals, others will hire you to work for their goals and dreams. And when we talk about personal finances, it's no exception, as you can get caught up in the day-to-day circumstances without achieving any clear goals. Therefore, it is crucial to have our financial goals and objectives clear. Identifying the direction we want to direct our financial life should be the first step to start improving it. You must be clear about your current situation through a self-analysis so that after that, you can establish the goals you want to achieve. Identify what is missing in terms of skills or abilities to achieve your goals and take action on it. In several previous videos, we mentioned the SMART methodology to establish your goals. Apply it. Identify a few goals that are important to you and focus your efforts on achieving them. People's mistake is to set too many goals, losing focus and direction to achieve significant financial results. Set specific goals such as saving for a down payment on a vehicle, a house, or investing to start a business. Establish them clearly with value and date of fulfillment. That way you'll get your brain to focus on fulfilling them. Remember that your brain, like your money, is an excellent servant, but a terrible master. So, set out clearly what you want to achieve. Step 2. Identify your income. The first thing we must do to properly organize our finances is to identify all our sources of income. It is the basis for our budget and to identify where we will allocate our money. Certainly, you have income from your job that you could identify as your fixed monthly income. Your salary offers a greater level of predictability when preparing your medium-term budget. However, as we recommend, you should never rely on a single source of income, no matter how secure it seems, because that would make you a slave who needs to sell your time for money, definitely, and you will hardly be able to grow significantly. Therefore, we must also consider variable income, which originates from your activities in addition to your main activity. Let's start preparing this budget. Suppose you decided to organize your finances once and for all, and you've been putting it off for a long time and will start doing it now. Start by drawing up the following table where you will organize your finances. First, identify that your salary is your fixed income, which we assume is $3,000 per month. So, start recording it for the next few months with no growth prospects. Regarding your variable or additional income, unfortunately, you haven't created any yet. Therefore, we always recommend looking for income alternatives that help us increase the speed of growth of our wealth. Otherwise, this growth will be limited, which we know, in general, is slow growth. Step 3. Establish your savings fund. Many people want to change their financial situation. However, when asked about their salaries, they say they can't make it to the end of the month with the money they earn. So let me tell you, you must make the sacrifice of postponing or reducing some of your expenses or seeking to increase your income, because without savings, you do not invest. And without investment, you will not have assets that generate income to increase your wealth and equity. For better or worse, this is the way, and there are no shortcuts or secret formulas. Savings is the starting point for organizing your finances and constitutes the fundamental pillar of your financial education, because the level of spending that you can afford will depend on it, as well as identifying the money that you can invest. Having clear goals and saving for your investments are essential steps to building a fortune. It is always suggested that you save between 10% and 20% of your income at a minimum. Certainly, you will think this is impossible, and that money does not reach anyone, and even less to save. That is precisely why saving is the first thing we must consider, because if you leave it to the end, I assure you that there will be nothing left. People tend to spend first, and from what is left over, only then think about saving, if anything is left over, because we know that rarely happens. So, by separating for savings first, you force yourself to only have the remaining 80% or 90% available for your expenses. I can assure you that you will find ways to lead your life normally, even after saving, without affecting your current quality of life. Of course, this percentage of savings must be adjusted to the particular situation of each person. If you are financially responsible before saving to invest, you must save for your emergency fund. The usual recommendation is that it is between 3 to 6 months of your income to have a reserve in the face of any unexpected situation. Continuing with the example, you are now proposing to save to invest in the stock market in the future. Therefore, based on your income of $3,000, you determine that you will start saving 20% of your income, that is, $600, until you have enough for your emergency fund. In month 15, you will have accumulated an emergency fund equivalent to 3 months of your monthly income, that is, $9,000. This emergency fund must be in an easily available account and, if possible, generating sufficient income to avoid loss of value due to inflation. Before continuing, if this knowledge is being useful to you, I invite you to like and subscribe to receive more content. Now, let's continue. Step 4. Identify and record your expenses. You can guess a person's future by looking at what they spend their time and money on. Robert Kiyosaki. To identify each of your expenses, you can start by making a list of them and classifying them according to the following. Fixed expenses correspond to expenses that are recurring and keep their values approximately fixed throughout the months. For example, expenses with education, mortgage, food, transportation, payment for services. Variable expenses are those expenses that do not have a fixed recurrence. You will not necessarily incur them every month, or their values are variable. For example, clothing purchases, entertainment, medical expenses. This is a reference example because it is up to you to identify these expenses according to the lifestyle you lead. It is important here to have identified each of these expenses and prevent them from affecting our finances or being able to take action immediately if we are exceeding any of them. Now, in the example, you have identified as your fixed expenses for your food, mortgage payment, utilities, transportation, and education. As for your variable expenses, you have identified your clothing, entertainment, medical expenses, and minor expenses. As mentioned, it is up to each one to assess, with all sincerity, the amounts of expenses incurred monthly, and you can prepare your list of expenses and, of course, make the corresponding improvements to use your money more efficiently, avoiding unnecessary expenses. However, for the particular case, we will follow the suggestion of the 50-30-20 rule, where we will allocate 50% of income to fixed expenses and 30% to variable expenses. So, of your total income, $500 will be used to cover your fixed expenses and $900 for your variable expenses, which you should stick to this budget if you don't want to affect the money for your savings. Step 5. Budgeting. In this step, we should already have everything about our income, how much we are going to save, and what our expenses will be. Now, it is up to us to make a projection over the months in our budget to determine how long it will take us to reach our financial goal. The importance of budgeting is to have, financially speaking, a realistic idea about the fulfillment of our goals. This budget will serve as a guide for where we will put our money and if it is aligned with the goals we want to achieve. We can have much of the way one on how to better manage our money. In the example, you have identified that your income and expenses will be established over the months, and for this, you will make an effort to avoid spending your money on unnecessary things. Therefore, your budget will have little variation. Therefore, your expenses over the months will also be similar to your current expenses, reaching at the end of 15 months the $9,000 needed for your emergency fund, corresponding to 3 months of income. When you budget, don't look for accuracy because no one can predict the future to make a 100% accurate budget. Therefore, the budget is likely but not foolproof. Use it as a financial guide to guide your decisions about your money, what you do daily, and thus ensure that those decisions are in the direction of meeting your financial goals. With the $9,000 saved and the peace of mind of having an emergency fund, you can only start saving and thinking about how to proceed with the next step on your path to organizing your finances. That is, learning and starting to invest your money surpluses. Step 6. Invest. The real secret of people who have achieved great fortunes is not only in their financial education or intelligence, which allows them to manage their money efficiently, but more importantly, knowing how to invest their money and being able to multiply it, making their money produce even more money. This is the real factor that makes it possible for rich people to see their fortunes reach extraordinary amounts. If you want to increase your wealth after learning how to organize your money and finances, you must educate yourself on the various investment instruments that exist, learn about financial terms, your risk profile, and the concepts of liquidity and profitability, as well as financially analyze a business. This is the way to decrease the possibility of loss in your investments. The most important thing on your path to building your wealth is learning not to lose it. People know how to generate money, but they have never developed their ability to manage or invest it, which inevitably causes them to lose, through ignorance, all the money they worked so hard to get. Financial intelligence and your investment skills are skills that you must necessarily develop if your desire is to increase your wealth. Your path to economic and financial well-being is not easy, and it is not because the knowledge you must acquire is complex, but mainly because of people's attitude and discipline to manage their money according to priorities that help them build healthy finances. However, many times they get carried away by the moment, by immediate gratification, or by saying, "I spend because that's why I work." And without realizing it, they are eliminating the opportunity that, with that money, they can leverage and potentialize through the action of more money to achieve better financial development. Learning and applying these 6 tools in your financial life will help you get the most out of your money and achieve financial freedom, where you don't have to sell your time for a little money, but invest your time in what it really is. It's worth it to have a fuller and more satisfying life forever. Comment on your ideas about the topic. We also leave some recommended videos. Thank you for your invested time. Until next time.